We have a lot to cover in today's video, including the latest trade talk around teams like the Edmonton Oilers, the Columbus Blue Jackets. Could those two teams hook up on a massive goalie trade? We'll discuss that possibility. We're also looking at rumors around the Capitals, the Sharks, the Devils, and others. Plus, we have news from the Department of NHL player safety, news from the waiver wire as well. The Winnipeg Jets owner apparently has offered an apology to Connor Bedard, Connor McDavid's on the Canadian Walk of Fame, and more coming up next. So welcome back to another video here at Top Shelf Hockey. As I mentioned, we have a lot to cover here in today's video. Let's get started first with the news from the NHL waiver wire. Nothing too surprising or major, but yesterday we had two players on waivers, including Sharks player Nikolai Nizov and Mark Pysyk, who was recently signed by the Calgary Flames. And of course, he signed a two-way deal, so the Flames wanted to be able to get him to their American Hockey League affiliate. To do so, they needed waivers to do that. So both players were on waivers. Both players have since cleared, and both players have now been reassigned to their team's respective minor league affiliates. So nothing new on the waiver wire as of today. We do have, I said, news from the NHL Department of Player Safety. Avalanche centerman Ross Colton has been fined the maximum in the CBA, $5,000 for what they called a dangerous trip against Anaheim Ducks star rookie Leo Carlsson. So that's $5,000 fine. Not a huge deal, but again, a dangerous situation that player safety felt was necessary to intervene in. Several other updates regarding some roster moves. The Nashville Predators have recalled forward Mark Jankowski. The Penguins have recalled Alex Nylander again. He's gone up and down a lot lately between both the NHL and AHL. And the Ottawa Senators have demoted Matthew Highmore. He did not play in last night's game. They did go with an 11-7 formation against the Kraken. And of course, they do have some players coming back from injury. So it looks like Ridley Gregg will be able to return for the game on Tuesday. So that's good news for Ottawa. They're starting to get back closer to full health after dealing with major group of players dealing with some significant injuries there for some period of time. And the Chicago Blackhawks, young player Lukas Reichel was a healthy scratch today. Obviously, Blackhawks head coach Luke Richardson trying to send a message that his play has not been up to par as of late. So we'll see. He's still very young. No need to worry. Sometimes when you see a player healthy scratch, it makes you wonder about their future. Considering where he is and how important he likely is to their future, I don't think there's anything to be worried about. Sometimes you just need to take a young player, have them sit out and kind of look at things from a different perspective and kind of have a little bit of a mental reset. So we'll see when Reichel gets back into the lineup. And of course, a few days ago, we talked about the fact that Winnipeg media was asking Connor Bedard some questions during his media availability when the Blackhawks visited Winnipeg. And they brought up the fact asking questions. I think there was 2 or 3 questions around the crazy rumors that were circulating regarding Corey Perry and his family, which I know a lot of people thought were inappropriate and not necessary. And the kid's been through enough having to see all this stuff online, along with his, his parents and sister. I'm sure have all seen it too. That's quite a difficult thing to navigate through. And I'm sure that they were all petrified seeing these rampant, crazy rumors involving Corey Perry, and then Winnipeg media, asking him on camera about this. Certainly, you could tell Bedard was irritated. The first one wasn't too bad, but then it got worse as the questions kept coming, and he said he wasn't going to answer any more questions, and it was just a bunch of internet BS, which is exactly what it turned out to be. Apparently, Jets owner Mark Chipman made a point to contact Bedard and offer an apology. Now, I know I've seen different takes on this from other media members. Some media members saying, listen, they didn't agree with the questioning, but they don't report or answer to owners. Yeah, I get that. I think this is a great gesture myself. I think Chipman recognized the fact that the young rookie sensation comes into his city, into his arena, and has to deal with some inappropriate questioning. I mean, yes, because does he control the media? No, he doesn't. Can he make them ask questions or not? No, obviously not. But at the same time, I just think he saw a young kid with a really, poor experience going through a tough time after all the crazy, ridiculous rumors based on something that was baseless, really, that his teammate was going through, and how that got linked. I don't know how it ever got started. And he just wanted to apologize probably on behalf of the city and, let him know that it wasn't something he agreed with. So I thought it was a nice gesture. I know there seems to be different takes from different media members out there, but I don't know. I don't think that's something you should be questioning on. Really, like, stick. I mean, I understand, like, you want to stick to hockey as much as possible, and there are times when you kind of need to. Maybe it's appropriate to be a little bit personal, but I mean, come on, leave the kid out of it. It was clearly already rumors that were dispelled, and just good gesture on Mark Chipman's part, in my opinion, and that's all we'll say about that, I guess. Connor McDavid was honored this weekend. He made a quick trip to Toronto because he was honored in becoming a member of the Canadian Walk of Fame. So obviously that's considered one of the country's highest honors of achievement. So certainly a great honor. Obviously he was honored in the sports category. No big surprise there. McDavid, arguably the greatest hockey player in the world. Generational type talent. Proud Canadian, and Canada's very proud of him. So no big surprise that he received such a nice honor. So it's a big deal to get in the Canadian Walk of Fame for Canadian celebrities of different statures, and certainly a huge honor for him, no doubt. Onto the rumor section of the video. All kinds of stuff. As we can see, the trade market, it's starting to heat up a bit. There's certainly a lot more rumors flying around about different teams making moves. We've seen a little bit more activity as of late. Teams are getting creative, figuring out how to do things, and we'll see. Now, of course, one player we did talk about the other day that Elliot Friedman made public that's been granted permission to kind of find a trade or find a new deal here through his agent was Tyson Barrie of Nashville. So we know that Barrie's a pending UFA. It made sense to me that he likely wasn't going to be in Nashville too long. And he's approached the Predators. They've talked, and he has permission to seek, other opportunities, you could say. So if he and his agent can find a move that works, then they'll certainly consider that. I wonder if a team like the New Jersey Devils might be a good landing spot for Tyson Barrie, given the fact that we just learned in the last day or two that one of their top offensive defensemen, Dougie Hamilton, is going to be out for an indefinite period of time due to a torn pectoral muscle. That type of injury is significant. Like I said, all they've said is indefinitely, but I wouldn't be shocked to find out that it's a 4 or 5 month turnaround. So, I mean, that's a big blow for a New Jersey team that's not really looking for the team to take a big step backwards this year. They have not gotten out of the gates as quickly and as strongly as they had hoped. And, they're behind where they were last year. And at this point, I think there is some concern over playoffs. It's not a given, but you're looking at the teams in front of them in their division. I mean, the Rangers are off to an incredibly hot start. Even teams like the Capitals are doing better than expected. Ahead of them, you get the Carolina Hurricanes in there. It's hard to count out the Penguins. Really, the Islanders are doing okay. It's going to be a dogfight. And I know some people, based on where all the teams are in the Eastern Conference, think there's a possibility we might see 5 teams in the Atlantic make it. I don't think you can rule that out. Getting into the top 3 really is the only way to guarantee yourself a spot. And I know that the Devils are pretty anxious to build on what they built last year, and what they did was a big surprise. But the thing here is that a lot of people really need to remember, which shouldn't be a huge shocker, but I think the Devils caught a lot of people by surprise last year, and a lot of people were underestimating, didn't realize how good they were. Now by the midway, halfway towards the end of the year, they were well aware, but it takes time to really learn how a team plays, really dissect them, and figure out how to defend them and play against them. And I think teams have kind of adjusted to them now, so they're not a surprise anymore. So it really shouldn't be a huge shocker that they've had some setbacks. Then you mix in the injuries on top of that. They played a stretch of games where they did not have their top 2 centers with Hischier and Hughes for a bit, and now they're going to be without the top defenseman and Dougie Hamilton. I mean, that's a big blow. I just don't see Tom Fitzgerald and the Devils kind of sitting around with their hands tied and not doing nothing. I mean, goaltending has been an issue for them as well. Vanacek and Schmid have not been up to task on top of that. So clearly I can see them making some moves to try to make sure this is not a setback season. You don't want to have a huge gain like last year and then a setback, but sometimes you kind of overachieve a little bit, and then you kind of take a step backwards before you can take a step forward. I don't think there's a lot to worry about in New Jersey. They have a lot of great players there, a lot more young talent that are still building their way up. I think there's lots of reason for optimism that they'll turn this out to be a good season. I just think that Tyson Barrie might be an interesting choice for them with Dougie Hamilton's long-term injury. So we'll see where that goes. In Washington, a team that is doing better than expected, and after a poor start, picked it up. But I think there's still even though the record indicates that they're doing all right, if you watch their games and you see them play, there's definitely lots of reason for concern that that's not going to be a sustainable piece for them, that they're going to likely, have some adjustments for the negative in their game, and I think we're likely going to see them fall back a little bit, come back down to earth, so to speak. But Evgeny Kuznetsov is a player that I'm interested to watch. I think the Washington Capitals and Kuznetsov would love nothing more than to part ways with each other. That relationship has been not good for a while. I think Kuznetsov appeared to be, somewhat optimistic, but somewhat pessimistic when I listened to interviews with him in the offseason. But given the fact that they had a new coach in Spencer Carberry, who's typically very offensive minded, I thought there could be a good fit that maybe he finds a way to get him going and kind of rejuvenates that relationship. But it's not working out. I mean, he's had some okay play early in the season, but in their last game, for example, against Vegas, at one point he was demoted to the fourth line for a while, and then he was benched completely. I mean, he not only has this year, but one more year on his deal at $7.8 million. That's tough, a lot of money to move. I think that they'd really like to find a way to do that. But then you mix in the fact that Anthony Mantha's another contract I'd like to move as well. Mantha's had a few moments where he looked a little bit better this year, but in the grand scheme of things, I don't think he fits long term. Oshie's had some issues with injuries again. Ovechkin hasn't been himself. I don't know. I think that it's a matter of time before this team kind of settles down and works their way back down the standings. And we'll see what happens with Kuznetsov. I think his contract might prove too problematic, but I think there's a lot of desire on both sides to move on. And as we've seen from Elliotte Friedman on Saturday night on the headline section of Hockey Night in Canada, he made mention that the San Jose Sharks are very much open for business and willing to make a lot of different moves when it comes to their blue line. He said a lot of their decor is available for trade. I'm not sure there's a ton of interest in a lot of them, but one name that will be most interesting and get the most attention will be Muriel. Of course, is still 25 years old. He signed for a couple more years at $3.25 million. Going to get a lot of interest there. He shoots left. Makes you wonder, though, where he could end up. But ultimately, the problem here, and not really a problem for the Sharks, but a problem for other teams, is that if you want Ferraro, it's not going to come cheap. They're making it known that they're willing to make deals. Pretty much everybody's available, but a guy like Ferraro, who will get the most attention, will be asking a lot. I mean, like I said, he's 25 years old, is a top four defenseman, signed with a good contract. They're not going to come cheap. But what's their version of cheap in this regard? It's hard to say. But he will be a name to watch as the season goes along, and teams want to make adjustments to their blue line. To win a Stanley Cup, you need to have a lot of D, and a solid decor is so important. So a lot of these guys will get more attention as the year goes along. Now we want to talk about the possibility of a Columbus-Edmonton deal. Now Jack Campbell, a player to watch in all this, was heavily speculated by a lot of reporters, including Elliotte Friedman, who talked about this as well on Saturday night, saying that he fully suspected Jack Campbell would be recalled this week. And I wouldn't completely rule that out. But as of the recording of that segment, he had played 3 straight games for Bakersfield in the American Hockey League where he had really good results. He had multiple wins, but 1 loss. But in the loss, he made 39 saves, looked good. And then his next game was yesterday. That didn't go so well. So in that game, he allowed 4 goals on 35 shots, so 31 saves. That's a sub-900 save percentage again. Not the most terrible game, but not great either. So certainly his team in front of him has played well. They won that game. It's a win. It was a 6-4 win for Bakersfield. The team itself has done well as of late, but Campbell, I do wonder, is that going to throw a little bit more concern in there? I still wouldn't be completely shocked, even with that, somewhat subpar performance, that he does get one more crack. Because overall, he had 2 or 3 really rocky starts in the beginning of his AHL stint. Then he had 3 good ones, and then he had a not so good one. So I don't know. It's like a yo-yo. And really, to be honest, is that not what we've seen from Campbell a lot in his career? Good goalie, but man, at times it's just not close. Like, it's hard to explain. So at the end of the day, before the Oilers make any kind of significant deals, I would not be shocked if they do recall him and give him a game or two just to see if he can find a way to at least give them league average or somewhere around their goaltending. They've proven lately that if they can get a few saves, and even if they're not, this is the most steady defensively, they found their offensive game again. They can outscore themselves out of trouble. In a team like Edmonton, they need goaltending, but to get in the playoffs is one thing. To win in the playoffs is another. And, they've had too many years where goaltending has let them down. I don't know how long this is going to drag on, but I know looking at the Edmonton Journal and looking at their situation that they were writing about with this team, they were making some suggestions on things they might move. And then looking at the fact that the Jackets and the Oilers have had a lot of mutual scouts. The Oilers have been heavily scouting this team, and there's been some talk that goaltender Elvis Merzlikins might actually be in play here, along with the defenseman in Columbus, rumored between either Adam Boqvist or Andrew Peeke. The Oilers could use help between the pipes and on the blue line. And, of course, for the Jackets to do that, the Oilers would need them to take Campbell. Now, Merzlikins is signed for a few more years. Similar amount of money to Campbell. I know he's played better than Campbell, though, so it's certainly a downgrade for Columbus if they make this move. I don't know, but the Oilers would have to obviously offer a big, price here to make it worth their while. This is not a case of it being a 1-for-2 or we've heard about, potential first-round picks. Xavier Bourgault's name has been in there. Raphael Lavoie, Philip Broberg. There could be a variety of these young players with the Oilers. Even Dylan Holloway, I don't think is expendable. Totally off limits here is what I mean to say. So, you could throw in a few of those young players, a pick or two as well. I don't know if that's enough for Columbus to do that, but at the end of the day, there is some speculation that those two teams may be having some conversations about a potential swap. Now, Columbus, the Edmonton Journal, what I was referring to, felt like Campbell would be, that was one of the more likely logical destinations for he could go. I mean, I thought a lot of that was the connection to Manny Legacy. Of course, he's not working in Columbus anymore, but he's a former Columbus goalie coach who he's been working with in the offseason. Of course, he knows the Columbus management team extremely well. Maybe there could be some connection there. Maybe he continues working with Campbell and they figure out a way to make it work. I don't know. But, I mean, the Jackets are a team that's certainly not expected to be super high in the standings. I think it's known as well that Elvis Merzlikins would be aware that he's open to a change of scenery. His agent has made that clear. So could we see a trade between Edmonton and Columbus? So it would see Elvis heading to Edmonton, Campbell heading to Columbus, and some other parts as well. Maybe a defenseman going back to the Oilers, and a few of these young players that are not quite, that are expendable by the Oilers. Like I said, Broberg, Holloway. I think even to a degree, Ryan McLeod might be available. You throw in, either Bourgault, Lavoie, some picks. The Oilers want to make sure they move forward this year, and this might be the way to kind of help make sure they do it. Now, another move that the Oilers are apparently interested in is this could fall under a big update involving Corey Perry. There is updates as well from the Edmonton Journal that the Oilers are one of 3 teams that have a lot of interest and are closely monitoring the whole Corey Perry situation. And, of course, Corey Perry, we don't know if and when he's going to play again. At this point, based on his statement, it certainly sounds like he's seeking treatment for alcohol issues. How long that's going to take, you don't know. I mean, it's usually at least a 30-day program. I know when we've seen players go through the player assistance program, you're looking at least, 4 to 6 weeks, if not maybe a little more, maybe 7 to 8 weeks before they're even kind of at a point where they're kind of cleared to play. So, considering where we are in the season, could this be something that we see Corey Perry re-sign a new contract and finish up the season maybe later in the year, maybe sometime in the new year? That would not be shocking, but according to the Oilers are a team, and to be honest, the Oilers have taken chances here with other players that have had issues, and they've been able to make it work. Look at Evander Kane as a prime example of that. So I don't see a case here where they would not be interested. They could use a player of his stature if he's willing to play still and he's, sought enough treatment that he's doing better and wants to play. I think the Oilers would make a lot of sense. Now, according to reports from the Edmonton Journal, the Florida Panthers and Colorado Avalanche also very interested. Now, it's at a stage where I said the interest is only, monitoring the situation. They don't know if he's going to want to play again, but look for Corey Perry to be getting a lot of interest here, probably in a few, another 3-4 weeks, maybe a month from now, as the potential increases for a potential return to the NHL. I'm sure they're going to want to talk to the Blackhawks or find out a little bit more about what happened in this incident that resulted in his contract termination. But if it turns out that it's nothing of super concern and they feel like he's sought some help and can move forward, I don't see any issue why a team wouldn't give him another chance. So we'll see where that goes. So let me know your thoughts on all today's news and rumors down in the comments. We'll discuss further. If you're new to the channel, make sure you subscribe and stick around. We'll keep you up to date with the latest news, rumors, and analysis of all 32 NHL teams. Thanks for watching, and I'll catch you next time.